I'm definitely excited to talk about it, and it sounds like there are people here that are, like-minded with me, have been following for years and years and years. So this is actually a thrill.
Oh, good. Good, yeah. When I put the invite out there to get a guest host or host to come in and talk Third Eye Blind, I wasn't sure if anyone would respond or just think I'm an idiot. You can still think I'm an idiot, it doesn't matter, but I'm glad you guys responded, so that's great.
Yeah, the Reddit's pretty inactive as far as Reddits go.
Right. Yeah, it was more the Facebook groups. I think you guys all came from the Facebook groups. Oh, you were Reddit?
Yeah, I'm Reddit as well.
Oh, okay. All right, well, there you go, Levi. You stand corrected. What I'll do is I'll start the show, introducing the show for those who will hear this on iTunes, what have you, and then you'll hear how it's going to be introduced. When it comes to each album, we'll go in album of order release, starting with the first right up till, of course, Thanks for Everything. Talk about your feelings on the album in general. Try not to give away your pick at the start of the discussion. So like when we get to the end of the discussion of talking about their debut album, then you can say, and I feel the worst song is this. You're totally allowed to challenge someone's pick, and also at the same time, don't on each other. That's not what we're doing here. We're all gonna have different opinions. It's okay. We're all Third Eye Blind family. And at the same time, the way the show works too is you don't have to hate the song for it to be the worst. So if there's whatever song it is, you can still like the song, but the idea is if one song had to be getting rid of on the album, this is the one you could get rid of. So that's how it works.
So obviously we're all pretty big Third Eye Blind fans, and I'm not saying this is the worst song on the album, but let's say it's like, Slow Motion. Well, the instrumental is the worst song on the album, but the actual song wouldn't be considered that, you know what I'm saying?
That's a great example, and I'm glad you brought that up. I thought I put it up in the directions earlier, but that's okay. So no instrumentals count. It's only the studio album, so there's no B-sides.
Are you considering Slow Motion, the full version, to be the Slow Motion we would discuss if we were talking about that album?
Yeah, so Slow Motion on Blue, it doesn't even count. You can't even use it because officially it's really just an instrumental.
That's what I'm saying, though, is because they did re-release that album with it in it. So
right.
Are we just doing straight up the original release, or are we doing
correct
the release that everybody knows?
No, the release as on the album. Again, instrumentals don't count, so you can't even pick it anyways. I know you're not saying you would, but the rules that my brother and I have set up for the show is instrumentals don't count for a pick, and cover songs don't count for a pick unless it's like the Thanks for Everything, which is the whole album is a cover album. So that kind of breaks the rule. But if they do a cover song, like if a band, like we did Metallica once, we've done Aerosmith, like with these other bands that we've done on our show, and we don't count the cover tunes that they do because that's not their original song, if that makes sense. So that doesn't qualify.
That's too bad, man. Heroin was badass. When I heard that, I was like, wow, that actually might be one of my all-time favorite Third Eye Blind songs. And they didn't even write it.
Oh, sure, fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, we're picking the worst, so you're picking the worst anyways.
Easy.
We're already recording. I think I might keep a lot of that instruction anyways for our listeners, just so they can... Because I think we're going to get a lot of new listeners just for this episode.
Welcome to the worst of the best podcast. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't freaking make it! So here's what you get. From Canada, Ryan and Ruben.
So for you people who are listening to this episode right now, who are listening for the first time, welcome to the Worst of the Best podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. And if you're a longtime listener, you're wondering, hey, where's my brother Ruben? He's not a Third Eye Blind fan. Unless you could listen to every album and every song in a week and have a real opinion after a week. And I don't think that's possible. He deferred it over to me to get some strangers online. So everyone that is going to be a guest on this show today, we're going to have them introduce themselves one by one. We're all Third Eye Blind fans, and we're also all strangers. So we're in the company of strangers right now, guys. How does that feel?
Pretty good, man. I got to say, it's funny because we didn't even talk much before, getting together to do this podcast. We all were just like, all right, cool, we're going to do a podcast. All right, what time? Boom, done.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So that was Levi. Levi, do you want to go ahead and say a little bit about yourself? Maybe you could do this. Say how long you've been a fan of Third Eye Blind, and maybe say your age too, because I think it's kind of important, because I'm kind of curious as to ages of people, because I'm 43, but I've been listening to these guys since their debut album, so 20 plus years ago. But some Third Eye Blind fans are in their 20s, and I don't think they've been listening since they were 3 years old. So I'm just curious what your age is.
So I'm 21. Been listening to Third Eye Blind since 10 years ago. I don't know. I had a teacher who was super into them, and then people told us not to listen to them because they were anti-religion, and I didn't know what that meant. Started listening to them a little bit, and then I started listening to them again when I started working, and I found out all of their original songs were about drugs. And, you know, I was young, and I was a teenager, and I was like, badass, I want to listen to more of this stuff. And I've just listened to them ever since.
So your teacher got you into them. What was the first song that you remember that you, or do you recall that was like, oh, wow, I love these guys?
First song is either Semi-Charm Kind of Life, but actually, now that I think about it, I think it's Jumper. Because Jumper was on that movie with Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah.
Yes, man. Yes, man. That was the movie.
That was a badass movie.
That's a funny movie. Very underrated Jim Carrey movie.
When I started listening to it, and what I do for a living is I'm in the military.
Yeah, I was going to say your profile picture. Thank you for your service. I'm in the military too. I'm in the Navy.
Nice. Actually, I left the Army and I'm in the Navy now, ironically enough.
Good move. Good move. All right, so that was Levi. That's awesome. Let's go with you, Justin.
My name is Justin. I'm 28. I've been listening to Third Eye Blind since, I really want to say 99. It's probably more like 2000 though. My uncle was a big fan. I remember hearing Semi-Charmed Life in his car like Christmas Day 2000. It's like the time I can really remember. I kind of got into him from there.
Nice. That's awesome. The older generation showing the young kids the band. That's great to see. Justin, where are you from?
I'm from Tennessee.
Tennessee. All right. That's a terrible Southern accent. I apologize. I'm Canadian, so I might be the only Canadian here, I think. Andrew, where are you from, buddy? And what's your story?
I'm originally from Ohio, currently living in Florida. Definitely not a Canadian. I am 35 years old. I have been listening to Third Eye Blind since 96 or 97. The first concert that I ever attended when I was 13 years old was Third Eye Blind opening up for the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow. You saw that tour. Wow. Bravo.
I saw that, the Bridges to Babylon. I was lucky enough to have a friend who invited me along, and that was my introduction to Third Eye Blind with their first album, with all of their songs hitting the radio at the time that they did. I was keenly unaware of the drug connection with all of those songs as a 13-year-old, but it was fun later to find out, you know, sort of a second level to those pop songs that were infecting the radio in the mid to late 90s. That just sort of began my infatuation with Third Eye Blind. I've seen them in concert dozens of times, followed them around. Very excited to have a chance to talk about them now.
Awesome. Wow, that's awesome. Well, I'm Ryan, the host of the show, and I'm from Canada, 43, so I'm the old fart. Welcome, everybody. I've been listening to these guys since their first album as well. I just saw them for the first time last year. So I've been a fan for 20 plus years. Yeah, I've been a fan for 20 plus years, and I took my sons to the show. Actually, no, my oldest son and I went to the show. He's now 20. I've raised my children to like Third Eye Blind, so I got a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old son who are both Third Eye Blind fans as well. My 19-year-old was unable to go because he's actually in the Navy as well, and he couldn't go. I saw him in Vancouver. It was at this club. It was like a really stripped-down show. There was no lights, basically. There was barely a crowd. I was actually kind of nervous because it was at this the casino, the Hard Rock Casino in Vancouver. I think half the audience were ticket winners from whatever promotions they had in the casino, and there was like a group of us that I could tell were legitimate fans, but there was like older couples walking in that were 30 years my senior. I'm like, oh boy, I think they think it's some sort of like, I don't know if they think it's some sort of casino show, right? I was getting nervous because this was my first time seeing them, and I was, hoping for a big, bombastic crowd. But the irony is I loved that it was stripped down and that it was these crazy fans, because we all got to the front, and we actually got to go right to the front of the stage. So I was right, my arms were on top of the stage, and I was 2 inches away from the whole band. And I got to shake Steven's hand. It was amazing. They played 17 songs. They put on a show, and I give them full credit. They put on a show like there was 20,000 people. It was a non-tour show, so I'm actually wearing my Third Eye Blind shirt from the concert right here.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I was literally so ecstatic. I know this is going to sound silly. I've been over 60 concerts. of other bands. And this was the most intimate, amazing show that I've ever been a part of, that I was literally almost in tears throughout the show. I felt like a little schoolgirl watching the Beatles. It was that exciting for me. I just felt young again and just totally jubilated. I don't know if you've ever had that experience at one of their shows. It's like a real spiritual connection with this band.
I think many people that go see Third Eye Blind regularly, as I have been known to do, that's why they do it. That is exactly why they go, because every show is made to feel a personalized experience. It's my opinion that Steven goes out of his way to do that. That is the appeal. They do it for the fans, and the fans know that. To the extent that you have these long-lasting fan relationships that some of us have. And I think other people can speak to that too. It's just how Third Eye Blind infects, it sort of becomes a lifelong thing, because they keep putting out music. That keeps getting better and better.
So, Levi, have you seen them live?
Actually, I'm going to see them probably this July. I had tickets. Me and my father were going to go see them right when they released, was it Dopamine was the album, I think? And we go to the stadium, and you know what? We missed it. I was so ticked off. We read the date wrong on the tickets.
Oh, no.
But I'm going to go see them this month, actually. I think it's funny because, you hear such great things about the concerts. Steven putting in so much effort. And then it's like, dang, man, I really wish you could have put that much effort into the band early on so we wouldn't have lost the great guitarist we did.
Okay, well, we'll talk. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. This is a discussion time roundtable. We'll get into some of the controversies, the band changes, the pros and cons. So, Justin, I forgot. Have you seen them live?
I have. I'll see them my 7th time this next Wednesday.
Nice. Where at? In Tennessee?
Excellent.
Yeah, in Tennessee.
Nice.
Be in Nashville.
Nashville, okay. That's great, guys. So we got one guy who's seen them 12, 13 times, and there's another one 7 times. You got a 1 and a 0. So but that's awesome. So yeah, Levi, make sure you get the date right on that ticket, okay?
This time.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about their first album, Third Eye Blind, the self-titled album. It came out April 8th, 1997 by Elektra Records, which is the same record company that deals with Metallica, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, a huge hit, radio hit, 5 singles. Thoughts on the album?
I think it's sad that this album, that we have to talk about it at all. Like, it's so easy to pick the worst song on this album because all the other songs are so much better. And we all know what it is. London.
Hey, okay, Levi, I like your style.
That is a hot take that I am not willing to accept.
Okay, Levi, I like your style. Well, you know what?
I could sing the words to every other song on that album. Every single word perfectly. London. I used to carry my laptop around and play it from my laptop because I didn't have like a nice iPod or something. But London, every time I skip it. You know what I mean? It's just not as good.
No, that's fair.
And I'm willing to die on that hill. It's just, I hate that song so much. It just feels so out of touch with the rest of the album.
I love how you just jumped right in with your worst pick. That's fine. Go ahead, Andrew. What are you going to say about the album in general if you want?
Wow. It's really hard to recover from such a hot take. Whether or not London fits in with the album in general, it was entirely indicative of rock music at that moment. For me, this album coming out and as it debuted, it just felt like Third Eye Blind was taking over the radio. There was constant airplay of Semi-Charmed Life. Hardly any time for losing a whole year to make it on the radio. The succession of the 5 singles as they came out was really sort of remarkable. I don't know how many albums it sold. I know that it was an absolute killer. Growing up through that time and living through that album being released, that was a really remarkable thing. I actually did play through a CD to the point where it stopped working. Got a second copy.
That's amazing.
That's how those things went back in that day. Yep.
Yeah, so 6 times platinum.
6 times platinum. I don't know how that stands up against the Matchbox 20s or the Michael Jacksons of the world. There were other things happening at the time, and 6 times platinum is nothing to shake your fist at.
No.
I don't think people actually get platinum certified anymore. From what I remember, I think Beyonce was the last person to do it, and that was a few years back, just because people don't buy albums anymore.
People were buying hard copies of this. I bought 2.
Yeah. So, Justin, what's your thoughts on this album overall?
It's probably the first album that I can remember listening to front to back several times over and over and over. It's definitely the only cassette. Like I've had cars that just had cassette players, and it's the only one that I will keep in the car with a cassette player. Because I mean, I don't want to skip. Yeah, I have my take on the worst song. I won't go into that yet, but it is the only cassette that I will just sit there and play and just let it go through. It's got a lot of bangers. It's got some great lyrics in there, some great guitar riffs. I mean, it was a great debut album, but great album just regardless.
Of course, we talked about the guitar work of Cadogan. Am I saying the last name right? I don't know if I've ever heard it out loud.
I think people typically say it as Cadogan, yeah.
Cadogan? Okay. Yeah, he is an amazing guitarist, and of course he was a guitarist on parts 1 and 2. I'm so used to doing a movie podcast. He's the guitarist on the first 2 albums, and of course he did the backing vocals, and he did a lot of the songwriting with Jenkins. So obviously a very integral part of the band and the album. But this album suffers from something, and I think we kind of touched on it. It kind of suffers in one way with being a part of its time. The tone of this album is not consistent. Some songs sound a little bit different than others. So the songs that I think stand out, the songs that, for me personally, that stand the test of time, are the songs they didn't write for that time, such as God of Wine, Motorcycle Drive-By, The Background, Narcolepsy. Those 5 songs. Yeah. Okay, so those 5 songs right off the top. If anyone you pick one of those 5 as your worst songs, we're going to stop the pod. We're going to kick you.
Yeah, we should definitely stop the podcast because I have a tattoo from Third Eye Blind that was spurred on by me listening to Narcolepsy 5,000 times.
There you go.
It's a legend. It's a legend.
So you get my point. So those songs don't have a feel of time.
What people don't know is Kevin Cadogan, he actually studied under Joe Satriani. So this was no slouch of a guitar. I mean, this guy was legitimately a fantastic guitarist. Because this is one of the few albums we get him on, and I feel like it shows in the guitar work that
it certainly does.
It's not the same anymore.
No, it's not the same anymore. And I have a question about how that plays into the other albums. And how much does Steven play compared to the lead guitars that he hires on the albums?
Oh, nowhere near as much. There was an interview with the guy who owned the studio that they did I think it was Blue in.
Okay.
And he said that Steven would show up at the end of recordings and record the vocals. He'd be drunk and he'd roll up on his motorcycle and leave at the end of it. I think that's why a lot of it sounds different. Steven has a lot more control and influence over any of the songs that he didn't necessarily have in the very, very beginning. And I feel like that's why the overall sound, I think, of each of the albums has gotten less and less guitar heavy. And if it is guitar heavy, it's more synthetic, pedal driven rather than riff driven.
You've got a good point.
It is a good point, and it doesn't necessarily mean the albums have worsened over the years. And I think
they're just different.
They're different. I think the fact that some of them are fresh and new really helps. The songs that are the weakest on this album, for me, believe it or not, and this isn't my pick just yet, are actually, I never listen to any of the singles ever anymore. When I have the CD in or it's on my iPod, I just don't bother. I saved
you and me both, brother.
Okay. I saved it for the concert because you're going to hear it at the concert. And so when I heard Semi-Charmed Life live at the concert, I thought, hey, this is great. I get to hear this song that's 20 plus years old that got them going as a band. Great. I got to hear it live. It felt better live, but I don't ever listen to. And in fact, the 5 songs that I mentioned to you guys, that's the only ones I have downloaded on iPhone from this album.
I think that Jumper and Semi-Charmed Life I don't listen to nearly as much anymore, but I do listen to Losing a Whole Year and How's It Gonna Be, just because I feel like those really did feel like they didn't get overplayed.
No, I agree with that.
It's like the Enter Sandman of Metallica.
Exactly.
So let's talk about your worst pick. Levi, we got yours. I'll let you guess go first. Andrew, give me your worst pick and why.
I'll give it to you, and I'll tell you, out of all of the albums, this was the second most difficult for me to choose from. At this point, I've listened to this album so many times. It's been my partner on countless road trips. These are songs that I live my life to. I've taken turns, as you said, sort of shunning the most popular ones that you'll hear on the radio. I want to repeat essentially the songs in the middle and at the end, right? The ones that don't get overplayed. For that part, I've made them all my favorite at different points in my life. If I had to choose one, I'm going with Burning Man. I'm going with Burning Man as my least favorite song.
I mean, I can't stand for this. That is the best song on the whole album, man.
I told you it was the second toughest decision That, you know what? And I probably have too. I've probably cried to all of these songs 2 or 3 times. I agree with you.
Yeah, all cry about London for different reasons than the rest of the songs.
Because it's so 1997 it kills us, right?
Oh yeah, it's like it's cemented. All the other songs can move through time, but London is, dude, let's just build a house in this year and never let it age
right
at all.
Andrew, what is it about that song in general that you don't like? Is there a part that you don't like, or just...
There's less memorable and emotional about it than the other songs. When I think about the other songs, when I think about Good For You, I think about that is the origin of there's something in you that I believe in. When I think of I Want You, I think of, oh my gosh, he actually made a song about vampires. When I think about Thanks a Lot, I think about I Slit the Throat of Your Confidants. There are things in these songs that are very connected to me. Burning Man is a goofy riff. Burning Man, I'm not entirely sure what there is to connect to it.
Justin, what's yours?
It's a toss-up. For years of my life, I really said Narcolepsy was my least favorite song on that album. I mean, lyric-wise, I enjoyed it. Guitar-wise, I enjoyed it, but I didn't connect with it. Even having, staying up for days on end, different drug benders and stuff, I still didn't really connect with it. The older I get, the more I realize I dislike Graduate. I've never been a big fan of Graduate. I listened to it the day I graduated high school, and that was honestly the only time I really connected with it. When I see him in concert, if I have to take a pee break, that's my pee break. I mean,
they play that one a lot live still, don't they?
It's an iconic song.
It is. It doesn't grab me. It really, just overall.
That's funny because to me, Graduate's the other song on the album that really just feels straight out of that year.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is.
What I think is funny though is the reason I don't like the parts I would kind of peg them for are the overly done punk influences, because that's what I feel like Graduate and London give me. So punk, it's almost too much punk.
Right, that's fair. One of you picked mine, so that honor goes to Levi. I totally agree.
Yes.
With you. Yeah, I never listened to London ever.
Fantastic.
Was it ever used in Friends? Was it used in Friends when they went to London? I can't even remember.
It was in Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Boy, if that doesn't speak to the age of the song, I don't know what does.
Wasn't Graduate also in that? I can't.
Yes,
okay.
It was.
I can't keep track. Okay.
That's
double down on the Third Eye Blind. Fantastic.
Okay. So there you go, folks. That's how this show works. So London for me, it's just, it doesn't resonate with me at all. Like, I've never been to London. I don't care about London. And I don't want to go back to London either. So anyways, actually I've been there for a layover on a flight, but that's it. So, but yeah, this is the album that started it all. Without this album, we wouldn't be here today talking about them. And I would like to say, thankfully, they have moved not on, but they have moved forward from this sound in this album. Their sophomore effort, that's what you call the second album, was Blue.
Oh my God. Oh, that is my all-time favorite Third Eye Blind album. So easily.
Blue's the jam.
I got the sun from the album cover tattooed to my arm.
I think I saw that.
I just
Beautiful.
couldn't get it out of my head. And when I listen to the songs, I see the images, man. Like, this is the album for me that was when they went 3D. They went out of the world.
I agree. I forgot to say, I was turned on by this band by a coworker, and I remember, ironically, their singles turned me off. I'm a bit of a metalhead. I was raised on Metallica, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue. Look at my Worst of the Best podcast feed. You'll see some of the bands that I liked growing up that my brother and I have covered. So I was your typical, 80s, 90s metal kid, and Pearl Jam, even, those type of bands. So Semi-Charmed Life, to me, this felt very like a teenager boppy, because I'm a little bit older, right? I was already 20-something when that came out. So it didn't resonate with me. And see, this guy was like, he was adamant. He's like, no, you got to check it out. You got to check them out. So I got the album, and that was why Narcolepsy really jumped out at me, because whoa, we got a rocker here. It just doesn't sound like anything that they've released. And so ironically, their non-singles on that first album were the ones I didn't listen to, because I liked what they were hiding from us rockers, in a sense, or us metalheads. So when Blue came out, it really spoke to me, because I was like, holy smokes, they went like... I wanted more. I wanted more of 1,000 Julys. That song.
Yes.
Yeah, if anyone's picked 1,000 Julys as your worst song, get out of here.
You're out of here. Yeah. You're out of here.
That guitar work and the power chords, and you're just like, oh, I almost wish they just did a whole album sounding like that. You know, they showcase this kind of stuff, and it teases you sometimes.
It was really fun to see how they grew going into that second album. You could tell that Steven wanted to be harder in some ways. You could tell the inspiration of his favorite bands in a lot of those songs, to the pleasure or displeasure of Elektra Records, right?
Yeah, sure. And I don't like how they made anything so short. There is an extended version out there. I don't know why they chose to make it the not. Does anyone know the reason?
Because it was the worst song on the album. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I will say that anything does. Like, it feels like, oh, okay, anything's on. So that means that next, Wounded's going to be on, and I'm really going to be happy. Because I feel like it was misplaced, man. They put Wounded, which to me is just such a heavy hitter, right there. And anything never really got a chance to shine in that spot.
It's weird because anything was the first single from the album. What a weird first single.
Yeah, it really, I mean, I guess it kind of is a blast off point because they do all get like significantly more intense, I guess. It feels like it doesn't do anything justice because it's a well-written song, and I feel like it's almost like a come down than a crescendo like it was.
Yeah, well, yeah, Wounded was I wonder when they made that song if they knew how big of a song it was going to be for the crowds for years to come.
It's hard to say if they planned it the way that they did, because crowds Third Eye Blind fans attach to these songs in such impactful ways that you'd almost be silly not to just do the fan service, right? Fans love Wounded, so play Wounded. It is funny how this album is still continuing in that very old school tradition of the singles are the first 4 or 5 songs on the album, and they are some really, really big hits, from Anything to Wounded to 10 Days Late, Never Let You Go. One of the biggest ones they feel compelled to play at concerts these days, right?
Justin, what's your thoughts?
I mean, it is a great album, like you said, that they do kind of show more of that rock edge with it, a lot more experimentation, so to speak. I agree, anything short, Wounded hits. 1,000 Julys is very, very top-notch of any genre. That the back half is not as strong as self-titled is overall, but it does still have some great parts to it.
And it's a pretty long album. It almost comes in at 70 minutes, and that does include a 10-minute silence part, but if you take that out, so it's 60 minutes long, an hour-long album, so it's a decently long album of songs.
Funny about that is the way they did this album, it feels like the way they did the first album, where they had like the ending sort of it be more experimental and kind of like more relaxed. But I feel like the first, like you were saying, definitely just doesn't, it's not really comparable because they did the same exact thing, but I think that they did do it the back half a little bit better in the first album. So positioning and flow.
Right, no, I like that. I had the luxury of every album since the first album. I bought them when they came out and listened to them right off the bat. Same. And I never listened to singles, actually. So I didn't even know what was a single because I don't listen to the radio. So I'm an old man. And I don't listen to singles. So I actually didn't know what they've released as singles. So I actually Googled it at the time or whatever. Actually, Google wasn't around then. I remember with Slow Motion, I was so frustrated when I heard the song because I knew why the lyrics weren't released because I had heard through whatever forum or online or whatever. I had heard that the lyrics are too bad, like too brutal for an official release through Elektra. And I remember being so frustrated because I remember thinking, boy, this song sounds amazing. And I wonder what they're saying. I wonder what the lyrics are. So needless to say, when
they're pretty dark.
They are.
Yes.
Definitely. I remember hearing the song and going, this is probably the most beautiful and morbid song I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
That tends to be the reaction, yep.
Yeah, and it's also a crowd favorite.
And I'm a guitarist too, and so I'll be like sitting in a guitar center playing on the acoustic guitar, and all of a sudden somebody would be like, dude, are you playing Slow Motion? I'm like, yeah.
That's hilarious.
And it's always the same reaction too. It's like, dude, that song was so brutal and beautiful.
Yeah.
I would be happy if I never heard Slow Motion in concert again.
Ooh, Nelly.
I mean, it's not my worst song on the album or anything, but I would be so happy to not hear the fact that every time he plays it, he's like, this is a song only our true fans know. And I'm just like,
You know what? I do appreciate that sentiment because I think you go to enough of these concerts and it starts to feel a little bit disingenuous, right?
Yeah.
It felt really good. And then you go to the sixth time and you realize, oh, okay, it's built in. That part is built in, and that's why they keep doing it.
They're showmen. They're businessmen at the end of the day. And I get what you're saying there, guys, because when I saw this concert for the first time, when I saw them on concert for the first time, I went on one of the forums or whatever and expressed my excitement about the band and some of the things they said. And I got some disingenuous or some
Disgruntled?
No, disenfranchised.
Oh, disenfranchised.
Yeah, people kind of like what you guys are saying when I said something about this or that. He goes, "Yeah, what else did he say? Did he say this? Did he say that?" I'm like, "Okay, all right." So it wasn't that special for me.
You've heard the spiel, right?
Yeah, which is fine. That's fair. But it was special for me at the time that he find out that he's kissed all the girls before you. Yeah.
Oh gosh, right.
Well, we should say this album also has the same four members of the first album. So we have the 1-2 punch of the four original members for these first two albums. And this will be the last...
The A-Team.
Yeah, sure, fair.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And this is the last time that these four will be together on a studio album together. So
It's a sad sentence right there. It just sounds so sad, because it is.
True.
But you know what? Third Eye Blind is just part of that lexicon of bands that this is just, it's almost cliche. You know, you named the band, and I brought up Metallica a few times. Granted, they had a death for their bassist, but they've already had a placement of the replacement bassist. Aerosmith is one of the few bands, but even they had a mini breakup. They had one studio album without the two original guitars.
So funny that you said Metallica and you brought up the death, but you didn't bring up the fact that Dave Mustaine got kicked out of the band and then made one of the other greatest metal bands of all time.
Agreed.
Which is arguably, I mean, just an opinion, but I think that they definitely show that they can play at the very least on the same level.
Oh yeah, I love Megadeth. I've seen Megadeth live 6 times and I've seen Metallica live 6 times. But
Send out prayers for Dave Mustaine, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sad to hear about the throat cancer, for sure.
Absolutely. The reason why I didn't include Dave Mustaine is because I go by studio release members. That's kind of how I look at
Fair
it.
Fair enough.
Okay, worst pick. Why don't we start with you, Levi?
Oh, man, you know what's sad is I love every song on this album. Sadly, I gotta say Camouflage, man. I mean, the whole song is just like, you can't like it until you're really a Third Eye Blind fan. Because it's just so bizarre, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like,
right.
Yeah, let me try to sing to this. And then it's just like, yeah, the whole time. You're like, what is going on? And if you're not a musician, you really don't get what's going on. Because they're just screwing around. And it sounds good, but it's what is happening?
Yeah, I like it. I think the only lyric I understand without reading the lyrics online is I can hear him say camouflage.
Yeah,
That's
give me
right,
anything to taking off your camouflage or something.
Yeah, it's a genius song, but it's one when I first heard it on the album, I remember thinking, what's going on here? What's happening? In fact, some of my most favorite Third Eye Blind songs, especially later albums, are ones that I didn't like at first.
Yeah, I agree. Don't get me wrong. I like the song. It's actually not an easy choice for me. Actually, it is an easy choice for me, but it's not at the same time. You know what I mean? Because I like every song on this album.
Yeah, it's the name of this
100%.
game. That's how we do this podcast. My brother and I often do this when we cover artists that we like. That's what you have to challenge yourself. Not everything's created equal, right? There's going to be something that's the worst. All right, let's go, Justin.
Worst song on the album, despite my boredness with slow motion, is definitely Darwin. I mean, it's got a cool sound to it. I see the experimentation with it, but I just don't relate to it. And I mean, the lyrics, like I said, they don't hit me, you know, like other Third Eye Blind lyrics hit me, especially not on the same album as something like Farther. Farther is the most underrated song ever, whereas Darwin just isn't rated at all, and for good reason.
I don't know, man. I feel like I relate really well to aliens in snakeskin boots.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me with Levi. I don't know why. I'm getting that feeling from this guy.
Hey, man, I'm from Texas. I have some snakeskin boots.
I believe it. Everything's big in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Andrew.
You know what? I have to fall in line with some other people here. Ooh. There are some songs on this album that you have to be a Third Eye Blind fan to like. Camouflage is one of them. I feel like Camouflage is, as the name indicates. Farther and Darkness are a couple of others. You have to sort of be on board with the experimental nature of this album, and that is sort of the feel through 1,000 Julys to the end. My pick for the worst song on this album is Darwin. Darwin is just something that you can't get behind, even if you are a gigantic Third Eye Blind fan. I don't understand this vibrating UFO noise. I don't understand this wanting to be the DJ. What I do think is that it echoes one of Steven's longest standing sentiments. He wants to sing a song that's his own. Darwin is a song for that. It's not my favorite song by any measure on that album.
Wow. All right, I might have the hot take then for this album. And this is a song that I didn't like as a single. It's too much of a radio grab, and that's Never Let You Go.
Oh my God, no.
Good job. Good job with that.
Yeah,
Good job with that.
I think when I first heard it, I thought, oh, this is kind of a fresh... This was, 1999, I believe. Let me see here. So this is 20 years ago. So there was a part of me that was like, oh, okay, this is kind of a fresh, because I'm not opposed to like a poppy sound. I'm human. If it sounds fun and nice, it's fun and nice. But it's one that grows quickly and grows quickly away.
You know what, man? I gotta say that hearing you say those words, it just feels like a sunburn to me, man. It hurts. It really hurts.
It's a sunburn that you'd like to save, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I knew someone was going to say that. So yeah, it's a sunburn. You got to live with it, buddy. Put it on some sunscreen because we got some more burns coming. I'll tell you. All right.
Oh my God.
All right, so Out of the Vein, the third album, the ever important third album of a band. This is where, does a band survive a third album? This is a test for all bands, and let alone when you have a change in the with the guitar. So Tony Fredinelli, I don't know if I said it. Am I saying his name right? Boy, these last name guitarist guys.
Tony Fredinelli. His name is Tony.
Yeah. Great backing vocalist, great vocalist. I liked his backing vocals on his album. I like the vocals that he does on Red Star and Non-Dairy Creamer, because that's him doing those background vocals. We didn't include that for this because there's no way I'm going to make anyone choose between those two songs. They're both amazing. It's just a 2-song EP. They should have been on an album somewhere.
Could definitely pick between those two.
Oh, really?
I can pick between those two. Yeah,
Red Star's fantastic. Why not for bonus?
Red Star is so good. So good.
Really? I was going to say Non-Dairy Creamer is so good just because it was so weird. The lyrics on that song were the experimental part, I think.
We haven't talked about Stephen Jenkins' ego here.
Yeah, or his politics.
Okay, here's the. But you know what I love about Jenkins, and I hope he's listening, and I hope fans of his are listening. I hope people that hate him are listening, because the reason why I'm a big Guns N' Roses fan, and you can't be a Guns N' Roses fan without both loving and hating Axl Rose, because that's what makes him a genius songwriter and performer. And back in the heyday, he was a scary performer because you didn't know if he was going to show up or when he was going to show up. Or it sounds terrible, but it plays into the rock star a little bit. As Steven, he's not Bono. We know that he can't sing that great live, but that's what I love about him. And what I love about him too is the guy can write lyrics. His lyric writing, and I'm a big lyric guy. Some people aren't lyric people. But the lyrics that he writes is just freaking poetry, man. It's just amazing. It's just like I listen to what he has to say. You name the song, the lyrics blow me away. Like, he is one of the most original lyric writers in the world. I love what he has to say. And when we get to the third album, who's writing the music? Who writes the music? Who's the sound?
Well, so they did it at Skywalker Sound, and I think that showed in the improvement in just actual recording proficiency and equipment. That's the George Lucas's recording and audio brand. I think that this album was one of the last albums where he really kind of let other people really collaborate in. The way that all the rest of the albums kind of have that same similar change to it. You've got so many songs on here where it feels like a guitarist, like an electric guitarist, not like Steven is, because he feels more like an acoustic guitarist to me, but a real classic style electric guitarist was just wailing on some of these tracks.
Yeah, Tony was awesome. And this album has...
Tony is awesome.
This album has really grown on me over the years, to the point when this album first came out, it was such a different sound than the Blue album. I almost called it the Green album. At first, it took me a long time to do I like any song? Other than maybe Crystal Baller? I remember when it first came out, I was like, do I like this album? But over the years, I love this album, and I love every song on this album, except for one glaring one. Every song on this album,
really?
I love.
Glaring?
Glaring.
Please tell me.
No, we gotta wait.
Please tell me you're not gonna say Self-Righteous.
So go ahead, Justin. Go ahead and talk about this album for a sec.
This is my absolute favorite Third Eye Blind album.
Nice.
I could talk for hours just how great Tony is on a personal level, on a music level, what have you. I'm a big fan. After he was out of the band, he did a few solo shows, and he was in a cover band for a little bit, helping a girl that's an American Idol. I went and saw a bunch of those shows.
Oh, wow.
I've had a few video chats with him. I paid him like $50 to have an hour-long guitar lesson, like on Skype with him. I mean, I'm just a big Tony fan. I really am. I could probably talk for hours about Stephen Jenkins and some of my feelings on him and his decisions too. As far as this podcast goes, this is about the fandom of it and not my unfandom of it. We won't go there.
Well,
but out of the vein in general.
You're teasing me here. Oh, that's fair. That's fine. It's fine. If we have time at the end of the concept, maybe we'll throw in some thoughts there. So go ahead and keep talking about the album. Sorry, yeah, go ahead and finish up your thoughts on the album there, Justin. Didn't mean to stop you there.
No, you're good. Out of the Vein is definitely my favorite album. I think it has just a different sound. I think it goes even more on the experimentation aspect of Third Eye Blind with a lot more layered guitars. I mean, there's some songs on this album that have 6, 7, 8 guitars playing at the same time, just all over different pieces. And I think it's an incredible album. Really do.
Awesome. All right, Andrew.
This is quite possibly my least favorite Third Eye Blind album. I don't know if that is a hot take in any way, shape, or form.
I can see this album dividing people, but go ahead. Yeah.
I actually think that I tie this. I want to change my original position. I tie this with Blue, honestly.
You tie this one with Blue. There are some great songs on this. I didn't think that Crystal Baller was as great of a song as Steven thinks it is. I just think it's a lot of loud guitars and not a whole lot of the lyrical creativity that he was known to show.
That's fair.
I think that Steven thinks all of his songs are a lot better than they really are.
Hey, you know what? We agree on that one. We sure do.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Steven. What are songs then, Andrew, that really do stand out to you? Like, what are some that you just love when it comes on? I'm curious.
Blinded is an all-time favorite. Blinded has so many words, and when you learn all of them, the song gets better as you learn each new one. Fitting in theories or the myth of Icarus and Cunnilingus into the same song, that is exactly what Stephen Jenkins is known to do. This is probably peak Stephen. I really do like My Hit and Run. I think that does come from a true place for him. Mm-hmm. I think that's got a lot of great Stephen Jenkins in it. Are we doing our worst?
Go ahead and throw down
my worst now.
Yeah, go ahead and throw down your worst while you're at it.
Throwing down my worst is definitely Self-Righteous. Self-Righteous is this song did not work for me. This song was melancholy. This song was drawn out. This song had some whistling and some humming where there should have been words and better noises. There were some good songs in this album. Self-Righteous was not one of them. And for a song twice as long as The Great Danger, right. Please, twice as long as Danger. I don't see the need.
6-minute song. Okay, yeah, I'm giving away my pick a little bit. Well, actually, let me do my pick. Then we'll do Justin, because it looks like Levi's ready to...
he's fuming. We got him fuming.
So it's killing me.
That's all right. So it's my pick too. I think I've heard it all the way through twice.
I knew it.
That's all you could bear.
I had a feeling. I feel like Caesar getting stabbed in the back.
And here's the thing. I'm a big fan of duets. I love duets. I love the male, a female juxtaposition of singing. Steven hasn't done that very often in his albums, and so here's a chance to do this, and it's just like, holy, this is boring. It's so boring. And the chitter-chatter and the chit-chat or whatever, the giggling, I'm like, what are we giggling about?
If you were wondering about the giggling, they were high as crap while recording that. That's what was going on.
Sure, but then it's even more...
They can do that as long as it's good.
Yeah. That's my pick, and I don't know if I don't know if Justin's got the same one. Maybe Justin, why don't you go next, and then we'll let Levi slam us and give us his worst pick. So Justin, go ahead.
It's got to be Self-Righteous. I'm all right. Well, I'm all right with the duet. I'm all right with the theme of the song. I'm all right with some of the haunting stuff. I like Kimya Dawson doing solo stuff. I don't like her on this track. It's a boring song to me. It really is.
All right, Levi, give us your worst pick and tell us why we're wrong. Go ahead.
First off, lyrically, I don't think that Steven has gotten much better than he did with Self-Righteous. Now, I could be wrong, because it's possible Kimya Dawson came over with it, and then it's just totally out the window. But stuff, you're like a haunted house in daylight, you'll never find real peace. Like, that's some burning stuff right there. Just think about that for a second. If somebody you were talking to was just like, you're never going to find real peace. You're like a haunted house in daylight. You'd be sitting there for a while.
Actually, I probably would have liked the track better had they just spoken the lyrics.
It's one of those songs that I listen to fall asleep. It should have been at the very, very, very end of the album.
Yeah, well, don't listen to that song Driving then, my friend.
Oh, definitely. Definitely not. Now, as far as worst song on the entire album, it's so hard for me to pick this because I feel like they're all so good. Mm-hmm. It's silly, self-righteous. Although now that I look at it and find out it's a 6-minute, 18-second song, I'm really surprised. I always felt it was too short. So maybe I'm just completely insane, which is possible.
No, that's what the beauty of the music is. I'm glad we're having different opinions. It would have been a boring podcast had we all picked the worst on every album. But I'm not surprised.
Real quick, though,
took the cake. But yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, because y'all were talking about y'all's favorite, I feel like Faster is just a work of sexual art. You mount the words, please, to the poster on the ceiling. Like, you're just, damn, this guy's straight going to town.
That's another classic Steven song.
You know, the whole story is just perfect.
Yeah.
So, Levi, I have to ask, are you high right now?
Oh, dude, I wish. No, I'm in the American military.
I know, I know. I was just bugging you because I didn't want to get you in trouble. You know, in the Canadian military, we can smoke. I can be
smoking. I know, man. If my great president is watching right now, I'd like him to take notes because I could be enjoying this podcast a lot more otherwise.
Yeah, Canadian military, we can smoke on our time off. So I could, in theory, I don't, but in theory, I could be smoking a doob right now in front of you guys while doing this podcast.
I mean, in theory, you are. I mean, in my theory, at least.
Yeah.
Saying self-righteous is...
It'd be a lot cooler if you were.
Well, I know. Trust me, I could be a lot cooler in many ways. I know.
What is Levi's... What's the worst song on Out of the Vein for you?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, okay, so that's what's so hard, is it's hard for me to even... I'm going to say Misfits easily, because that song was too good for me whenever I was a teenager, like really angsty teenager, and now it just feels so lame. I'll sit there and listen to it, and I'm like, wow. I mean, you were a grown-ass man when you wrote this song.
Wow. Keep that in mind for one of my worst picks for later, but here we go.
Okay, all right. So we're on to their fourth album, Ursa Major. And I remember when this one was released, there was rumors, and you guys could probably speak to this. And if you guys how you guys doing for time? I know it's late for some of you. I don't have work tomorrow, but if you guys have...
Hey, I'm having a great time.
Okay.
I'm great.
I don't want to babysit you guys, but I just didn't want to try to pace the show here. But if everyone's happy with the pace, we'll keep going. So this was the fourth album and the last album with Arian Salazar, and he only did bass guitar on one song, and that was Bonfire. So
great song.
Yeah, great song. Who does bass guitar on the other stuff? John Evans. So he was like a studio bassist, or did he tour with the band?
No, he was all studio.
Okay. This album was much like, for me, the third album, where at first I was like, what am I listening to? What's going on here? What's happening? But again, this album, it grew on me immensely. I think we're seeing a theme here, maybe with Third Eye Blind, and this is why, and I'll say this right now, kind of a hot take, I love every new album that comes out, because when I first hear it, I'm always kind of like, what are we doing here? What's going on? What's happening? And then I'm like, I trust Steven. Ironically, I trust the headmaster of this band, and he really can take you on a journey with his lyrics and the musical compositions, whether he does them or the guitars or they work together. That being said, this album has really grown on me over the years, and songs like Water Landing, when it first came out, I was like, well, this is ridiculous. And now I love that song. The whole singing about getting your air mask on and everything. How could you ever think that talking about a plane crashing in the water could be a good song? He does it. That's my overall feeling on this album. I love this album. I'm not prepared to rank them all, but I definitely love this album. But I definitely have a worst pick. Oh, one last thing. I will say one of my top 3 Third Eye Blind songs of all time is on this album, and that's Sharp Knife.
Oh, dude, totally great song.
Sharp Knife is just an epic song.
It's good. It's just, that's the only thing I can think of when I think of Sharp Knife. Now, I will say that this album for me was a sad album, because I remember it coming out. It was just, I don't really feel this as much. It doesn't really feel too much like Third Eye Blind. There were a couple of Third Eye Blind songs I thought. I can tell you right now, out of every single album, this album I've probably listened to the least. For me, it just didn't hit hard on every single one. And I will say that I feel like I liked the songs that people are going to remember. You know, you got the first 6, and then even then, it's not. I feel like the last 4 songs just feel kind of out there.
They are.
Now, I do love Molotov's Opera, though. I do love that one. I don't think this album has, besides Sharp Knife, And I guess Water Landing, I'd say too. But besides those two, really this whole album is just a dive into experimental.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay.
Dive into experimental, not a dive into
sure.
experimental.
Okay, fair enough. And I don't know, for me, the opener, Can You Take Me, Don't Believe a Word, that was like the ode to The Who, Sharp Knife, About to Break. It's just, I love this album. Side A definitely shadows over Side B, but go ahead, Justin, what's your thoughts on this album?
This album is perfect proof why Stephen Jenkins needs a producer in the studio with him. It is riddled with some awful production choices. Can You Take Me should be a much better song than it is. Bonfire should be a much better song than it is. Not that it's a bad song, it's a great song, but it should be better. Don't Believe a Word. I do have to preface with, those songs were played live, and I think I kind of ruined it for myself because I listened to the live song so much, and there's a lot of lyrical changes that I think he hit lyric gold, and then he overthought it and overworked it in the studio. Monotov is another song that was great left as it is, and yet there's some weird little blips and sounds in it. Dow has some weird choices in it. My worst song is very obvious on that. Won't go there yet, but I think there's some very glaring production errors on this album. I really do.
Right.
Tony, I think, tried to save it with some great guitar work, but overall, it does kind of just fall short on it. Whereas other albums he experimented well on. I think this one he kind of had too much control.
Interesting. All right, Andrew.
This album was a long time coming. Leading up to this album was 6 years of demo tapes. Does that even make sense to anybody? Of leaked songs from live recordings. I probably heard Bonfire 4 years before this album came out.
Okay.
As they were tweaking it, they were calling it Lightning Comes. Yeah, that's what they were calling it. As these songs were developed, I really felt like Third Eye Blind fans at the time were really involved in that process. A lot of these songs were workshopped for 5, 6, 7 years. And as they were dropping that 10th year anniversary album, they were touring for that, and they were playing some of these songs. I really fell in love with a lot of them 2-3 years before they ever appeared on this album. My affinity for this album is like developed over a lot of time, just waiting for the studio versions to be released, right? If I had to pick a worst song, are we picking worst songs yet?
I think everyone's talked about it, so yeah, you go ahead and start the show there, Andrew.
I'm sorry, my worst song from this album is 1 in 10.
Thank
my
God.
My worst song from this album is 1 in 10. I feel like it's misguided. I feel like it's Steven being as liberal as Steven could be, and I think he got it wrong. I'll let other people explain why they say it's their worst song as well. I love so many of the songs in this album, from seeing them live and seeing them work them out. I never once enjoyed him playing 1 in 10.
Justin, yeah, I saw you nodding. Are we unanimous on this one? Because I think we are.
I really think we are. I mean, as much as I want to say, I don't like production choices. I don't like the rap at the end of Summertown, this and that. But 1 in 10 is definitely
I love the rap at the end of Summertown. Thank you.
The rap in Summertown really works out. It really does. I think there's some funny choices, but again, I do like it. I think it does work in the final version of the song. 1 in 10, not only is it just kind of a poor, it would have been cool if you released it with non-dairy creamer, just, a short little funny clip. That's great. But to put it not only on the album that's been waited so long, but to put it smack in the middle of the album, sequencing just kills it. I mean, if you want to hide it at the end of the album, some silence, and then instead of slow motion, you do 1 in 10. Okay, yeah, that's funny. That's cute, Steven. Just in the middle, though, it just points out how glaringly different it is from the rest of the album. Kills it for me.
Levi?
From the moment we got to this album, because I look over the album list each time we go through just to make sure I'm not making a mistake. The moment I saw 1 in 10, I had that burning desire to, can you cut a DVD perfectly to where you just cut a song out of it? I used to write a lot of music, in bands just growing up. I remember hearing 1 in 10 and going, wow, this is what happens if you stop writing like really good music for a minute and just let your ego run wild. This is egomania, you know what I mean? It's just him feeling so great about every word he's saying. And I remember thinking, the line itself, could you be my 1 in 10, sounds so horrible. I can't imagine a person ever uttering those words in the right context. It's just terrible.
I like it. Good review to all of you, and I agree. That's my worst pick officially. Is 1 in 10. I can't really add much more to it.
Well done, gentlemen. Yeah. We've got a unanimous pick.
Yeah, so it took the 4th studio album, but we are all on the same page with 1 and 10, yeah.
You should put a poll up whenever you do it, like when you release this. I bet you everybody would vote that 1 and 10 was the worst song on that album.
You probably get
not one of the worst Third Eye Blind songs ever.
Yeah, fair enough.
It could be up there for one of the worst ever.
Dopamine, 6 years later. Do we know what's going on between these two albums? Does anyone want to speak to that, Andrew?
Unfortunately, no. I probably saw them 2-3 times during the span. So I saw them working out songs like Dopamine. I really took the opinion that this was Steven's touring band at this point. He was including people that would play his songs. I'm not entirely sure how this album was developed, but maybe someone else can speak to that. Just seeing them in concert, it was people playing the old hits and maybe 1 or 2 new things that Steven had come up with.
So we should say for our listeners, and for those who probably don't know, but there might be some casual, or semi-casual fans of Third Eye Blind. So the only 2 original members on this album are the drummer Brad Hargreaves and Stephen Jenkins, of course. We should say Chris Reed, Alex LeCavier, and Alex Kopp, who plays keyboard. So they've got an official keyboard member player, which I think is a great idea. These guys are still together since this album. In fact, their new album they're working on now, this will be the longest standing members 4 studio albums in a row.
Editor's note. So after recording this episode just a couple days ago, I went on Wikipedia, and there I discovered that Alex Kopp is no longer a member of the band. I couldn't believe it. Like, I didn't know when this change happened. I didn't understand that it happened, but it must have happened just recently. My understanding is he wanted to do his own projects outside of Third Eye Blind. I guess in some way he felt he couldn't do these projects while being a member of Third Eye Blind. So they have a new keyboardist. So any mention of Alex being a part of the band, and he was a part of the band for like 5 years, just disregard and understand that, yes, they have a new keyboardist now. So, yeah, it's kind of sad, but wish him all the luck, and we welcome Colin, the new keyboardist, to the family, to the Third Eye Blind family. So just keep that in mind that literally 24 hours after recording this episode, I found out that Alex Kopp, the keyboardist the last 5 years, has indeed left the building.
It's not the same, man. You ever seen that girl you had a crush on whenever you were a kid? You're like, dude, she's going to be amazing. I can't wait. And now I look good, or I've got my shit going, right? And then you meet her and you're like, you're not at all the same person. You're a completely different person. I barely recognize you. And it's not a good thing. I mean, it wasn't a bad album. It just didn't feel like Third Eye Blind anymore. It felt like Stephen Jenkins and the guys.
That's fair. Maybe that's how some people felt, or maybe even I felt that way at the beginning when I heard this album. But I will say, this album, look, maybe I'm just a sucker for the newer stuff as it comes out, because I keep getting surprised and blown away that Steven's pulling out songs that he's pulling out. And we need
Do you love this album? You love this album.
I love this album.
I love this album.
I love this album.
I love this album.
Okay, good. Here's the thing, and this isn't taking anything away from Levi. I totally know what you're saying, and this isn't about a generation thing or whatever. This is just me being excited that we still have rock music. At the end of the day, this is rock music being played and written. We just don't have this anymore. There's some songs on this album that they're written for 30,000 people crowds, and it just breaks my heart that it's not happening. They're very stadium anthem type rock songs. Let me just say that Say It and the guitar work by Chris Reed, the lead guitar solo at the end, it's some wicked... Are you with me guys on this? That end solo is amazing. And the way it ends, I thought this was supposed to be their last album. Did I hear that wrong when this album was released? Did you guys catch that?
He's said that time and time again, the whole idea of we're not going to do albums anymore. We're just going to release songs as we record them and stuff.
That's right.
I don't know if he's ever actually going to do that.
That's what I heard when this album was released. When I listened to this for the first time, and when I was listening to this, I was at peace, so to speak, with like, okay, here we go. This, 5 studio albums, it's nothing to sneeze at, and what a closer Say It is. I was ready to bury them with thinking of the bands that I've enjoyed throughout my life. Okay, every band stops. I actually tweeted Chris on his work on this album, thanking him for his guitar work. He thanked me back, so I want to give a shout out to him for that. I've actually tweeted all the guys in the band. They've all responded to me except for Steven.
Dude, that's a road you don't want to go down. You're going to be very old by the time he ever responds to you. And that'll be when he finds out you've got a matching organ or something.
Oh, gee.
And I don't know if you're really gonna want to know what he has to say, anyways.
Probably not. You'll like the band less.
Exactly.
Justin, thoughts on this album?
I think it's a great album. I'm going to preface it with Dopamine and Everything is Easy were the same song. That I don't know how much I believe on it. It has been said that Steven split them up so that he could have another song that was solely credited to him, writership on the album. And I mean, to take your leave on that one. But overall, they still sound to me like the same song. I wish they were just one extended song. Production choices, again, he needs an outside producer, whereas Ursa Major was trying to say, hey, let's rock out still. And Steven's kind of, well, no, we're doing these production choices. These guys were hired on to be hired hands. And I think that it kind of flowed better as a band album. I do enjoy the heck out of this album. I really do. Like I said, Say It is absolutely incredible. I kind of glossed over it the first few times. I didn't gloss over it, but, I kind of just took it as, oh, yeah, it's a good song. And just one day I was listening to it, and yeah, that guitar. So you're like, holy cow, that is some good fucking work. Because before I was very partial to Cadigan and Fred and Nelly, and sorry for throwing some curse words around. I didn't think about the whole podcast thing.
Don't worry about it.
But I mean, we're all adults here. But I was just really blown away because before I was like, I saw Chris do the concerts and stuff. I didn't really take him for what he is, and that really sold me on him. It's a great album.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not, listeners and members of this roundtable, this is the band that we have. We've got them for 4 albums, 3 already released, the 4th one being worked on. So I think we have a band here.
I just want to state, for the record, I do like this album. Every album before, I think this one, I could kind of feel like that little bit of 90s left in them. Because everybody who's a real big fan of Nirvana says it's probably good that Kurt Cobain didn't make another album, because what people liked about Nirvana, he was trying to get rid of. Like, he wanted to make it more poppy. It's not that it's bad. I think the whole album is great. I think the problem with it is it feels like he's over produced it. And he's not producing it in a way that I think that a really good producer would.
Okay, that's fair. Andrew.
I totally agree with what Levi was saying. Steven is taking more and more control over things. He may not be the best person for that job, but he does want control over this band and this music. For the most part, this album does appeal to me, and when I listen to it second, third, fourth times, I am convinced this is my new favorite album. Almost every time I listen to these newer Third Eye Blind albums or their mini albums or whatever you might call them. But we do recognize that Stephen Jenkins has more and more control over this.
Yeah, either you accept that control or you don't.
And we used to see this in the concerts. When he would just have his little 2-3 songs that he would do on his own, right? Now it feels like entire albums are that. That is how it feels, right?
Sure.
He would do 2-3 little songs with an acoustic guitar on his own, and we would know that was Steven's set. Now it feels like he does like half an album like that by himself. It's what the band is, and it's what we loved them for, so...
But there's songs on this album, Shipboard Cook, amazing.
Amazing.
It is amazing. It's something in
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Shipboard Cook a part of like the large... Because I feel like this album had 6 or 7 songs that were only Jenkins. No one else is credited.
I don't know who credits. Wikipedia doesn't have a credit for this song.
No, he's totally right. I'm looking at credits. Shipboard Cook, All the Souls, Dopamine, Back to Zero, Get Me Out of Here, Blade, and all these things are all Jenkins.
Say what you want about the guy. He's a songwriter.
He is, absolutely.
He's not a singer. He's a songwriter.
Yeah.
Something in You. I love the build up in that song when that Brad Hargraves on the drums. And the one song on this album, when I first heard it, one of the greatest ratios of Third Eye Blind songs that went from not really liking it to now I love it, and that's Get Me Out of Here. When I first heard it, I was not impressed at all, but it's a song now that I absolutely love. I love that the subtle build up in that song and the message of that song of being a rock star. I love it.
Very dramatic.
Yeah. Who else likes and wants more of that techno ending that we hear in Rites of Passage? Like, I want a techno Third Eye Blind album with that. I love that sound at the end of it. I don't know why, but I dig it. And I kind of wish I knew who did that sound. Was it Alex Kopp?
I read an article, I think, and Steven tripped over a keyboard. And that just happened, and they put it in.
Stop it.
He's like, dude, look, even my fuck-ups are great.
That's terrible. All right. Okay, so my worst pick on this album, it was between 2 songs. It was between All These Things and All the Souls. And I went with All These Things is the worst song on the album.
Yeah, I really discourage you from that pick.
That's fine. That's fine. When I first heard it, I actually enjoyed it in the sense of I liked the message behind it. It sounded kind of quaint and all that good stuff. The message, it sounded like, a son talking to the mother or the mother talking to the son, that all these things are yours. Actually, no, you know what? Sorry. Let me flip that. That's right. It was a tough call. All the Souls. I don't mean to... that's the one I like least. My apologies. My apologies. Okay, All the Souls. That is my least favorite. But All These Things is probably my second least favorite. Again, this is an album where I really, really love. Those two songs, if they fell off the album, I would never be heartbroken. But I'm going to go with All the Souls. Andrew, what's yours?
I disagree with you because I think these are like distinctly Stephen Jenkins songs, and you're absolutely right. If they fell off the album, you wouldn't miss them, but the fact that they're there, you know exactly what he meant by putting them on there.
Okay, fair enough.
Especially All These Things. It's incredibly inspirational, which, as a lead-in to my least favorite song, Exiles, I don't feel it fits. I think Stephen Jenkins and Third Eye Blind and their sixth studio album, I think they're beyond calling themselves the Exiles and the Outcasts and the Misfits. I think we're done with it. I'm over the sort of pretext.
Fifth studio album.
Fifth studio album?
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, it feels like it's been more. But it is my least favorite song. It's Exiles. It's got a fantastic melody. It just is incredibly disingenuous for Third Eye Blind and their fifth album. Yep.
All right, Justin.
I'm going to say that they did Exiles better when it was called Misfits. I do think we didn't need another retread of that, but my least favorite cool songwriter I am is it, but lyrically, I'm not a big fan. I don't like the ending. Teardrops in the rain and like little strum. I just don't, I think he could do much better. I'm not a fan of Blade at all.
Really? Wow, Blade. So you cut out at the beginning when you said the song. Yeah, Blade. Wow.
Blade, yeah.
Wow. Anyone want to wow him on Blade?
I like Blade.
Yeah. Blade's great. Blade was actually played at my concert when I saw it. That's fair. That's right. We're not here to crap all over you, so that's okay.
Blade. That's my least favorite.
Oh, sorry. I forgot about you, Levi. I apologize.
I was quiet for the purpose of I wanted to see what y'all were going to say because I didn't know what the reaction would be. But Blade.
Really? Wow.
When you look at a song and you can barely remember any of the contents of that song,
wow,
you have a bunch of references tattooed to your body. That should show you something. Because I said, yeah, this is important enough to keep on me at all times forever.
Right.
And then I saw the album and I listened to it, and that song was not important enough to keep with me forever. Wow. It wasn't important enough to remember.
Wow. Okay. I'm blown away, quite frankly. I didn't think anyone would pick Blade. I really didn't. I love that guitar solo at the end.
To be fair,
absolutely. I don't know what is it. Is it too much like Sharp Knife, or like what is our problem with Blade? It's boring.
It's boring. It's melodramatic. The same issue that, like I said, with slow motion. He plays slow motion live. He talks about how deep and dark it is.
It feels fake almost. Like he's not being genuine.
When you have a line like, and then you fuck the source until the money runs out, you're not into that line. You're not cool with that. Good.
It's on the same album as Dopamine.
That feels too pretentious to me.
Yeah, okay. The Stephen Jenkins sounds pretentious to you. Are you a Third Eye Blind fan?
Well, when I think about Stephen Jenkins, and maybe you guys are going to connect with this, do any of you guys think of Brian from Family Guy? He's surrounded by idiots, maybe, but at the same time, he never acknowledges the fact that he's a total colossal douchebag 90% of the time.
Yeah, he's straight out the 90s like that.
Hey, didn't Steven date Charlize Theron?
Yeah.
He did, yeah.
Crystal Baller is about Charlize Theron. Out of the Vein is about
Out
Charlize
of the Vein is about Charlize Theron, yes.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. I was going to ask you that part, say it, when we had that female talking. Is she talking when she mentions the actress? Is that what they're referring to?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Everything in Out of the Vein is about Charlize Theron. The other one that you might remember is Jennifer Love Hewitt. He did have a thing with her.
Vanessa Carlton for a while.
Vanessa Carlton.
He actually co-wrote
he wrote
a lot of
100 Miles. Yeah.
No, he didn't do 1,000, but he did that entire White Houses album, which is actually goes back to showing how great of a songwriter he is. I mean, I hate the man for being a douchebag, but I'm not knocking the man's writing abilities at all. Incredible.
So can we go back to the fact that he knocked boots with Jennifer Love Hewitt?
That's right. That was the 90s, my friend.
All right. My respect is going up. Okay.
Did any of y'all ever see those? Actually, some of y'all might actually have seen it, but like those ridiculous hats they would wear. I don't remember what video it was I saw, but I remember seeing him wear like a foot tall top hat of just the concert, just playing it. Felt purple top hat.
I will say I'm not a fan of the pants that he wears.
Yeah. Oh, dude, doesn't he wear like the leather pants that just show everything?
No, they're opposite. They're like weirdly baggy and long and short legs. Have you seen those? What I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, his traditional concert uniform is long, baggy black shorts. Yep. Okay. And he will dress those up with big boots or something. But he just loves to wear like long black shorts.
But he knocked boots with Jennifer Love Hewitt. My goodness. Okay.
Hey, man, the power of being the god of summer.
Sure. All right.
He's the god of summer. Summer god, yeah.
That's right. All right, so we're doing their first EP, a big EP. We Are Drugs. It has 7 songs, all original songs, no covers. That's for the next album. When this came out, I was a little bit unsure about it, but it grew on me, and I definitely have a worse pick on this song on this album. Company of Strangers, I think, is a classic of the ages. That opening track is amazing. Sherry is a Stoner. I absolutely love that. I love the chorus change and his voice going high. Don't Give In, I love too, because it's about not committing suicide, and I really feel like that's a song that they should sing live. Really, is him going out of the crowd like "Nice to meet you." I think when he does that "Nice to meet you" part, he should be going out to the crowd and kind of high-fiving people. I think that's a great interaction song. I'm not a rock star. He is. I guess he doesn't want to do that. Yeah, anyway, so Weightless is a great rocker. So now I'm kind of narrowing it down to my worst pick. So Justin, what's your thoughts on this album?
I agree. I didn't really know what to think when I first heard it. I love the return of the Third Eye Blind falsetto on there. Sherry is a Stoner is a great track. Once again, it does showcase some great lyrics from Jenkins. Different lyrics and showing some of the aging on it, but some great lyrics. Overall, it's definitely not as strong as the other albums, and yet, it being a shorter album, that's kind of to be expected.
Okay. Levi?
Every album they release where Steven gets more and more political, it gets so much harder for me to enjoy it. I try so hard to put it out of my mind. This album was really like, for whom the bell tolls, man. My bell was being tolled right then. I was, damn, man. You can't stop pushing it on me, man. I would like to just enjoy your music, but you make it so blatant. Cop versus Phone Girl, man. A hot take right now. It's the worst song of the album. Worst song ever.
Not a hot take.
By Third Eye Blind.
Not a hot take.
It's just because it's like, dude, Steven, I understand you've got an opinion. I have an opinion too, but my thing is, I don't want to know your opinion. I have never wanted to know your opinion on politics because I knew it would make it hard to listen to your music. And that song is the epitome of it. To me, it's the worst Third Eye Blind song.
Oh, wow. That's a hot take.
I like the take.
Okay, Andrew, so you're agreeing with Cop versus Phone Girl.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I really, really like this EP. I really, really like a lot of the songs on it. Don't Give In is fantastic. I think Isn't It Pretty is really good. Company of Strangers is a banger along the lines of some of their other B-sides like Red Star and other things like that don't get released, but could be great on the radio. Yeah, Cop vs. Phone Girl. Bad rapping, a decent hook, like they always manage to slip in there. They always manage to slip in a decent hook that you're like, okay, I'm singing along to this, and this is why this is a decent song. But it's not. It's a garbage song, and I don't agree with the politics, and I don't agree with the rapping.
Justin.
I gotta agree, Cop versus Phone Girl. I mean, I get it. It's an important issue. It hits you close to home, whatever. But overall, yeah, I'm not a fan of the song at all.
So, as the only Canadian in this group, I just have to say you're a bunch of racists. No, I'm just
a bunch of Third Eye Blind fans. Say what you want.
Texas, man, it's possible. Wait, we got Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. See, it's possible.
That's what you got.
You guys are just
Florida, Tennessee,
that's right.
And
you
Texas.
guys are fitting the cliche. Even a Canadian knows the cliche up here. No, I'm joking, but I actually do have a different pick than you guys. It's gonna break Andrew's heart. Isn't It Pretty?
You don't like Isn't It Pretty?
What?
Oh goodness.
Yeah, it's weird because again, I'm not opposed to kind of the electronic type sounds. I'm not opposed to that at all. In a song, I don't mind bands sampling or doing things that are different. I'm totally not opposed to that. But you're talking about hooks, Andrew. It just doesn't have it for me. It doesn't have that hook. If I were to hear this song live, it would be boring, and that's a big point for me. Is any of these songs I heard live, I would really enjoy, but that one I would be, it would be, isn't it boring? Yeah,
you're right.
All right, so guys, last album that they have released, and this is all covers. And I remember when this one was released, Thanks for Everything. I thought this was truly going to be the last album because it's called Thanks for Everything. Wasn't that what you guys thought? Is that what they wanted to tell us?
I still don't know if it's not true.
You don't think they're working on a new album like they've been saying in every show this year?
I mean, I don't know, man. I really can't say. I feel like at the time they wrote it, they were thinking that this would be the end. They were like, yeah, we're going to stop. This is totally your decision. But if we're doing an album of covers, can we just pit all the covers against each other? Because I feel like there are too many other covers that just slip through the cracks.
Tell me about these other covers.
Heroin, for instance, is probably one of my all-time, just in general, Third Eye Blind songs. Because, if you've ever heard Heroin by
Lou Reed.
Velvet
Underground.
Velvet Revolver?
Velvet Underground.
Velvet Underground.
Yeah, Velvet Underground. That's what I'm thinking of. Velvet Underground, I think they killed it. I think that they made it way better than the original. Which to me says something about it because I listened to it and I'm like, dude, they just sound like the same song. It has the same words. It's not the same song.
Okay, so for the sake of the show and for the what I call it, the concept of the show, we're sticking to the studio albums, but it sounds like you like that song anyway, so it wouldn't probably make your worst pick anyways.
Yeah, probably not. No.
So what,
it's probably that Beyonce cover they did.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That Beyonce cover.
Yeah. But that's a B-side release, so that doesn't count either. We'll stick to the 7 songs that are on this release, and you actually brought up a good point though, Levi. My worst pick actually has to do with, did they make the cover better than the original, or which one is the least better than the original? And I actually went through all 7 songs to listen to the originals from the bands, and I'll give credit to Third Eye Blind and to Steven and to whoever arranged the sounds of this album, if he's the producer again. They did a pretty bang-up job making every song better. And I don't want to take away, I don't want to take away from the artists that originally did these songs. And their choice of songs were very interesting. A lot of them were very recent songs from recent bands.
I think that covering a Bon Iver song was a mistake. That guy goes way too hard just to cover his song. Because I don't know about y'all. I listened to Bon Iver. I don't think it's fair to say they did a better job. Because, I mean, trust me, I love Third Eye Blind, favorite band.
Yeah, no, but, that's fair. But that could be your worst pick, for example. That's what I mean. That's my criteria, is which song did they cover where I think the original was better. That's how I'm doing this. You guys can do it any way you want.
Sure, yeah. I think that's my worst pick, honestly, to be fair. And it's hard because it's weird to pick the worst out of their covers, because it's like, wow, okay, so these are the worst. This is the worst song out of songs they didn't write. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I'd say the Bon Iver cover.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting one to discuss because, again, these aren't their songs, but they gave it the Third Eye Blind twist. 10, for example, is a huge improvement over the original. F Forever. Again, I think it's better than the original. I listened to the original by the Baby Shambles, and it's interesting, and I get why Steven chose it, because this guy sings worse than he does. This Isn't Our Parade. It was an R&B song, which I didn't know, and they made it into a rock song, which is really cool. Chastity Belt, the song Joke from Chastity Belt. These are I thought this was an old 80s song, so I give total credit to Chastity Belt because they're from 2015, and they sound like a band that should have been in 1984. So total credit to Chastity Belt. I think I might check out more of their stuff. Lastly, I've been a Queen of the Stoney's fan forever, so they did a credit Third Eye Blind on that. So my pick, though, is actually, don't get mad at me, guys, but that's okay if you do, is not the song, but it goes with my criteria. I like the original better than their version, and that's Song to the Siren.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so the Tim Buckley original is better than the Third Eye Blind.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you were saying the opposite, so I agree.
Yeah, so that's why it's my worst pick of their covers, because I think they actually elevated the other songs to a certain degree, or at least made them sound very Third Eye Blindy. But Song to the Siren is a straight-on cover, and quite frankly, the Tim Buckley version is just better. Yeah.
Well, Tim Buckley, I mean, that's not fair. Almost,
Sure. I give them credit to do that, and maybe that's why the other ones kind of work, because they're really bands that most people haven't heard of, other than, of course, Bon Iver, Queens. I don't know if other people have heard of Baby Shambles or Happy Diving.
We know about Santa Gold.
Yeah.
I've never heard of her, actually. I never heard of her.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew, your thoughts?
I am of a similar opinion with Levi. I think that the Bon Iver song, Blood Bank, was really, really hard to top.
Is that how
I don't
you
think
say
they
the
did.
name?
It's Bon Iver. Bon Iver.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been saying Bon Iver for years.
Oh, really?
I think that you're doing it fantastic as Tennessean or a Texan, whichever one you are.
Yeah, I'm from Texas.
Yeah, you're doing the
Bon
best a
Iver,
Texan can do. Yeah, Bon Iver. I think it's so great that they have been covered by so many great American artists and sampled by so many great American artists recently.
They're
from
fairly
Kanye,
new, right?
from Kanye to now to Third Eye Blind. I think that's a fantastic step for them.
Oh, so they're a band. That's not a person.
Yeah, they're a band.
Oh,
I think it's
Right.
3 or 4. I think it's 3 or 4.
Really?
interesting. Oh, okay. I might. So, are you recommending them there, Andrew? As a
I do recommend.
Oh.
Bon Iver. Bon Iver.
Dude,
Bon Iver.
Bon Iver
Bon
is
Iver?
one of the best, bro.
I've been a fan of Bon Iver forever.
Bon Iver. I absolutely do. They're a good alternative rock. I'll be absolutely honest to you. Yeah. Yeah, and I know that Steven likes them, and he's been dying to do these sorts of covers. So, yeah, it definitely made it on there because he's a big fan.
All right,
Yeah.
Justin.
First off, yeah, count me on the people that don't know how to say Bon Iver. But I mean, I've always said it, Bon Iver. I mean, whatever. This album as a whole didn't really stick with me much. I was really into it when they announced it. I was like, cool, Third Eye Blind covers. I've had the concert versions of Acquiesce and Today Was a Good Day and Heroin. This is gonna be great. And yeah, overall, I wasn't really impressed. I do have to say that the Tim Buckley song, just because I only knew 3 songs going into this covers album, and I kind of expected something different. And I was like, okay, this is, like you said, I mean, he did it better, and they didn't really change the style on it. And I don't know, it just didn't do it much for me. The other ones, yeah, they introduced me to some cool sounds, and I did check all of them out, and I'm kind of on all of them, whatever. But yeah, the Tim Buckley cover just didn't do it for me at all.
All right, so we got 2 Tim Buckleys and 2 Blood Blanks. We're divided. All right. Well, gentlemen, that is the end of how this show works. We've picked the worst song from our best band that we love the most or close to the most. So that's kind of how we look at this. My brother and I, when we do this show, sometimes we'll pick the top, like Metallica. They have such a huge catalog. So what we did for them, for example, was their top 5 selling albums we did. So they weren't necessarily our favorite, but it's what the public bought. So that's the best selling albums. We picked the worst song from each of those albums. So the criteria kind of changes depending on the band or what they've released. And so I think Third Eye Blind had released just enough albums where we could talk about each without going too crazy over time. But I do want to end the show with those who have gone this journey with us. Why do you guys just it sounds like you got a lot to say about Steven. So let's start with you, Justin. Like what's going on here? What's your thoughts on Steven? And here's a question. It sounds like you have some negative thoughts on Steven, or maybe thoughts that aren't positive, but you remain a fan of Third Eye Blind. How do you handle the both worlds?
I mean, at the end of the day, Stephen Jenkins, while he has made questionable business decisions, good business decisions for him, but questionable business decisions for maybe the best interest of the music, he's a great lyricist. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I like his politics or what have you, but he writes good lyrics. His words have been with me for the better part of 20 years, and I can't knock that, despite seeing him play live songs. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. And then seeing him just butcher it in the studio, they're still good songs. I mean, that they still are, depending on the month, the year, whatever, if they're my favorite band or not. I have a lot of different bands from varied styles.
Sure.
But they're their band that stuck with me for the longest.
No, that's fair.
I'm a fan of the band.
Yeah, I mean, I like so many bands. It's hard to say I have a favorite, but they are a favorite for sure. Yeah, because I've been a fan for 2 decades plus, so that tells you something. I guess I'm a little bit naive about Steven because I don't read a lot of the tabloids. So, Levi, give me some dirt on Steven. What's the deal here? Why does he divide fans so much?
So Steven is a classic asshole. I mean, he's not a good person, if you're honest. You read the stuff about him, what people have said, and you're just like, wow, nobody says anything good about him. So he's just one of those people where it's, man, how does this, it's like whenever you meet a kid and you're like, wow, you are so much better in every way than your parents. And that's what his music is like.
Okay.
The past 2 or 3 years, Kevin Cadigan, Orion Salazar, Tony Fredinelli, that they went and they did a band, and yeah, I mean, it is their fault they named it XEB, but that they played Third Eye Blind songs on the road, songs from all the albums. They did Ursa Major songs, they did self-titled songs, they did Vain, they did Blue. And then Steven basically took them to court and said, yeah, you can't do that. they said, okay, well, we won't name ourselves XCB, but we're still going to do those songs on the road because we wrote these songs. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I own these songs now. It just goes to show, yeah, Class A douchebag. True and through, however you say it.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's unfortunate. Andrew?
I can agree with everything that the other fellow said, while also saying that at this time he's currently on the right side of the law with the things that he's asserted, and that he does sort of have control over these things, and he can exhibit the type of control over those previous songs that he is exhibiting. To whatever extent it will take someone to sue him to get that away from him, I think that's sort of the game that he's playing. And I think that's sort of the way that is done, at least in his view of the rock and roll business. And a lot of people's view of the rock and roll business has changed in the last couple of decades.
Right.
Stephen Jenkins is a relic of an older system, and I think a lot of people would acknowledge that. The fact that they're still going on is interesting.
It's tough. It's tough because, they're a collaborative effort in the beginning, and it's not that way anymore. Like, there's just the family has moved on. It'd be like, I don't know, it'd be like having a roommate that you painted the house with, but the roommate leaves and he keeps coming to your house telling you that I want you to have these colors in your house. Like, dude, this is my house now, man. Like, we might have had something before, but the colors changed, and I don't want you to use the colors in your room because that was the colors that I said that we should have in our room. And now you're trying to take my ideas with you to your room, and why didn't you just like the ideas I had if you keep doing the songs that I was doing with you before? So it's an interesting dynamic, but they're not immune. Unfortunately, they're just human beings, and every band from The Who to Fleetwood Mac to the only band I can think of right now that hasn't done this is U2. They're the 4 original members. There's very few bands that can have stayed together and have buried their egos. Egos are a big thing. They're rock stars. Right, they're creative personalities, and everyone wants to be heard. I guess Brad. Let's give a hand to Brad. He's been there since the beginning, and he's a wicked drummer. Oh, and for the record, I got his drumstick at the concert.
I think it's important to realize kind of like what happened. There's a term called hired gun in the music industry, and it's where you have these people who are just the best musicians you can find, but they're not tied in any way to the band. You just cast them aside when you're done with them. And Steven has treated every single member of the band that way consistently throughout the years. And I think that the reason Brad hasn't left, because make no mistake, Steven didn't force them to leave. They left because Steven was putting pressure on them, but they chose to leave. Brad knew that if he left, it's like you can't really come back from being in Third Eye Blind. You'll always be that guy who was in Third Eye Blind. And so he chose to just stick with it, I think. And I think it's important to realize it's not an isolated incident. And I don't think that Steven was always a bad guy. Billy Joel, he got rid of all of his original band members. One of them committed suicide. He couldn't stand it. And it's important to realize that it's not like he's the only person who's done it. But I do think that he stands out as a worse person maybe than most people who do it. I feel like he didn't really age too well. Like he hit it so early on, I think, in his thought process that he's really a lot of what he was back in, 97, 96. I think he's very similar to that person. I don't think he's changed a whole lot. All
right, interesting thoughts. This is a good discussion points. We could go on for another 2 hours and maybe a whole new podcast about the band members. But I think
we'll just start a new podcast, the Third Eye Blind podcast.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You got a couple of co-hosts.
It'll seem like a real podcast, but really we'll just bitch about Steven the whole time.
Pretty much.
That format might
eventually
tire.
He'll come on the show.
Oh wow! Yeah, can you imagine, eh?
No, dude. I tell you right now, it wouldn't matter because in a couple of days we'd be sued.
We get a nice settlement. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, guys. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Do any of you have anything you want? Take this opportunity if you want. Do you have a podcast that you do your own, or anything you want to plug? Product, artwork, sites that you want people to go to? Anything? You can say it now if you want. Or Andrew?
No, my name's Andrew Clark. I'm a trial consultant in Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, good work. Good man. Justin?
If we're going to do shameless plugs, I'll go for it. I'll do some singer-songwriter stuff. Unfortunately, I have not found a band as of yet, and I've been doing this for the past 8 to 10 years, so who knows how that's going to work out. But if you ever want to check my stuff out, you like Third Eye Blind, you might like my lyrics. Daniel's on the Rocks on Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. So, Justin Daniels from Nashville, Tennessee.
That's awesome. Daniel on the Rocks. You're on iTunes.
Yeah, Daniels on the Rocks.
Daniels on the Rocks. Okay, yeah, I like it. I'm going to check it out, man. Absolutely.
I like it.
Thanks,
too.
man.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I think that's really cool. And why don't you give Tony a call? Maybe he'll play with you. Levi, what's up?
All right, so I'm going to take this chance. I'm not going to do a plug or anything or even tell you about what I do, even though I could. Instead, I'm going to say I feel like anybody who likes Third Eye Blind should give Counting Crows a chance. I feel like they're very similar, but I feel like instead of being evil, I feel like their lead singer's just kind of messed up in the head. Not as much torturing other band members until they leave.
Interesting. I never thought we'd get a plug for another band. Oh, sure. Counting Crows.
Nobody's listening to Counting Crows. He's got a point. He's got a point. He's doing the right thing.
I don't know if any of y'all have taken the time to listen to them, but that guy, I'd say if he's not as good as Steven, he's better.
Oh, wow.
Adam Duritz is a fantastic songwriter. Yeah, somewhere in Middle America.
So I just want to close up the show here, but when I close up, guys, don't hang up. So I just want to thank everyone for listening, and this has probably been the longest, but one of my favorite episodes of The Worst of the Best. And for those who are listening to this episode, either on iTunes or whatever your podcast format, check out the other stuff I do with my brother on this feed. There might be a topic that you'll enjoy. We do anything from conspiracy theories to actors and actresses. We even do like celebrity deaths, you name it. The topic is there in our feed. We've got about 50 episodes and growing, so check out our other episodes. This has been great, guys. What a great discussion. So thank you to you guys for joining. I feel like I'm talking to old friends, but we just met today. Thanks again, and this is my sign-off. My sign-off is, remember, in front of every silver lining, there's a cloud, and we're here to help you find it. Thank you for listening.